you missed a hell of a show yesterday, but I think it's a sensible day to go because it's a little quieter and I'm not so stressed today. Anyway, Zombies at Dawn panel with Len Lees, Kathleen Feeney and Mr. Jim Krut. And our global interviewer, Mr. Tony Professional Earnshaw. Enjoy.
Thanks, mate. Welcome, Sunday morning. Hope you're all rested. No one's got a hangover. I don't propose to repeat a lot of the questions that we went through yesterday, but there are certain things that I'm sure people will want to hear from our guests, mainly special effects and makeup effects and that kind of thing. Can I ask you all, what were you told you were going to be when you were hired for the film? Start with Kathleen, if I may. Were you always going to be the nun, or were you given a selection of things and asked to choose? How did it come together for you?
Yeah, I was designated nun.
Designated nun.
That's what I had the face for, and that's what they did.
And what were you? Where were you in your life when the opportunity came to you? What were you doing? How did you come to be in the film?
Oh, I was a young single mom in Pittsburgh, working hard, a couple of jobs. I was in college. My friends were all Pittsburgh Explorers Club.
Hold it closer.
Is it
Hold it closer. Hold it closer.
Oh, okay. My friends were in the Pittsburgh Explorers Club, and George had gone there to recruit guys that could be the SWAT team. Police, the kind of guys that could rappel off buildings and do the stunts you saw. So I happened to be there. And he was looking for an innocent face, and I had it, so I got to be the nun and work with George Romero. Such is life, huh?
And all these years later, here you are, and you're very welcome. Jim, were you chosen specifically for a specific role?
I was the chosen one, yes. I've known Tom Savini for a number of years, and he asked me if I would do a role in the upcoming George Romero film. And I said, you know, okay, we'll do that. We did the makeup and the head castings and all the preparation a couple weeks beforehand for the scene. And I didn't really ask much because I didn't really get a script. I had no idea what else was going on in the film. It was this is a single moment, and we were at the airport, and then he said, "Okay, it's time." I said, "By the way, Tom," and Tom had been, you know, busy with other scenes running around. I said, "Tom, now these are like zombies. Do they talk?" He said, "No," because I hadn't seen any of the other scenes being done. I had no idea what anyone else was doing or how they wanted them to be portrayed. He said, "No, they don't talk." And I said, "Well, do they make any noise at all? Can I groan? You know, whatever. You can do whatever you want to do." I said, "Well, is there a particular way to move or anything? You be the zombie you want to be." And that's kind of how that came to pass.
And Len, for you, how did you come to be in the film?
Mine was a little more blue-collar, working-class situation. I was looking to work on a film, in the film industry. So I read an article in the newspaper, and it said, Dawn of the Dead is going to be produced in Pittsburgh. And having been a huge monster lover when I was a kid, and then having seen Night of the Living Dead when I was about 12 years old, I wrote up a resume, took a train downtown, and walked into the office, and it was empty. And so I wanted to hand someone my resume, and this relatively tall man walked out, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, would you hand my resume to George Romero?" He said, "Hey man, I'm George. Have a seat." I'm like, "Okay." And we sat down and we talked for about 20 minutes, and told him my interests, and he talked to me about editing and filmmaking. It was great. I don't know the whole detail anymore because I was just kind of like blurred, because I was so happy to be sitting down with the director. And I got a call a week later, and they said, "Listen, you know, we're going to hire you as one of our grips." And I was thrilled. And so I'm working on the film, you know, I'm gripping, I'm laying cable. I was on the camera crew for a while. I was setting up tripods and running after batteries, and, you know, doing grip stuff, right? And wasn't really thinking about being in the film at all. I just wanted to work on Dawn of the Dead. And I felt lucky enough to do that. And then as the film wore on, we were like getting down to like the last month of shooting, and I started thinking about the fact that, well, there's grips over there, they're playing zombies and bikers and there's PAs and they're doing this. I better say something. I really want to be on the film. I want to play a zombie. So one night, George is standing next to me, and he's reading the script, and we're waiting for the actors. And I just kind of leaned over to him and I said, "Hey George, I want to play a zombie." So I'll cut to the chase. 24 hours later, I'm dressed up like a zombie, and Tom talked to me about the stunt where he's going to kick me down on the floor. And I was supposed to wear padding, but I didn't want it, because I was saying yesterday, when you're 23 years old, you feel invincible. So I just let him kick me down on the floor, and I get up, and you know the rest. You know, I get killed, and wonderful blood coming down my face. And all I cared about was making the cutting room floor. I didn't want it, you know, to be cut out of the film. I wanted it to be in, so I could someday show it to my kids. And hey, Dad was a really cool monster. And I have 4 sons that are grown men now, and they all think this is hilarious. And they've been to shows when they were younger. So, you know, it was sort of like destiny, I guess, because I always loved monsters when I was a kid. And but it was because I wanted to work, more than because I wanted to be in a movie. Yeah, and I have 2 of those large posters, and with a lot of names on them from the film. And you know, it's just, this is, when I come to a show like this and I go, like, I didn't know what to expect, because I was here in 2016, and you know, that was his first big show, and he was putting it together, and I told him this morning, wow, kudos to you. It's like, this show is far beyond that show, and the number of people attending, and the number of passionate people that, I mean, people like know all these things, and they have all these collections, and I hear them in line talking to each other, and I go, well, I'm in the right place. You know, because I've been at shows with other people like Sharon and Clayton Hill when Clayton was alive. And we were at this gaming show one time, and this is pertinent. And these people were there for like to buy pieces for games, and there were like thousands and thousands of people. And this was in Indianapolis. And about maybe 5% of these people had any idea why we were there, and they'd walk by our table and they'd go, like, what's that? They had no idea who we were, who George Romero was. And that was strange. And then you come to a place like this, and we say George Romero, and they go, yes. You know, it's like going from Mecca to Disneyland, you know? And I've been thrilled with all the people, and I've enjoyed all the conversations, and getting to know people, and doing the selfies. And it was just, I mean, it's just been like a really perfect experience, Marcus. You guys did like the perfect job this time. And I'm very critical when I go to a show. I'm very critical. I don't say it out loud to promoters. If I don't like it, I don't say anything. But if I really like it, I'll let them know. Because this is like, if you like Dawn of the Dead, you like horror, you care about it, you're passionate about it, I know all of you are. This is like a show you have got to go to. Even next year for sure. And evidently Lori's coming back. That's all I
I want to talk about creating a character. Jim, you alluded to it. You know, what do I do? Can I make a sound? Can I, you know, how do I move, etc. It sounds like, and Kathleen, you referenced this yesterday. It sounds like George Romero allowed you to be creative and to come up with your own styles. I wanted to start with you. She doesn't walk as a glide. She glides. The nun zombie. She's got a very unique way of moving. And I wanted to ask how and why you were able to come up with that movement, and then we'll come on to the guys in a minute. How did you create her?
Oh, we were just hundreds and hundreds of kids that spent all night in the mall for nights in a row. We didn't know each other before. And we practiced when we weren't always on camera, but we practiced developing our zombie shuffle. I thought I shuffled more. So yeah, then George seemed to approve of that. He did come in and direct the scene, and he'd just get a little nod when he was satisfied. So that's how I knew my shuffle was working.
You see, I think it was when Chris Romero was here, and Chris said George didn't want, I think you also alluded to it, Jim, he didn't want everybody to do the same thing. And no outstretched hands and the Frankenstein walk kind of thing. You wanted something different. So Jim, when you were saying yesterday that as a zombie you were less concerned about the whirling rollerblades than you were about your meal.
Yeah.
So you were focused on reaching Scott Reiniger. The movement, the walk, everything, was that Jim? Was it Tom? Was it in the script? How did that come about?
I would say that was me because the part where I first appear is coming out from under the wing of an airplane that's on the field. And that was a bit of a distance away from the little airport administration building where we were finishing up the makeup and such. And I was walking over with Tom, and that's when I was asking him the questions. Okay, now that I look real pretty, what am I really doing here? And I knew what was going to happen, but in terms of the character, he's, be whatever zombie you want to be, whatever character you want to be. And well, Tom and I had worked in theater before, and he figured he could trust me to come up with something. So I called on my thoughts of what I'd seen of previous horror films, like Lenny, a big fan of all the classic horrors. And okay, these guys are a little stiff. They're not very smooth in their movements, and they're just kind of focused on one thing, and that is going after flesh. So the walk, the focus, that was pretty much left up to me. As far as the direction, George trusted the people he worked with, and Tom, of course, did all the special effects, was in charge of them and executed them. So in many of them, there was a lot of exquisite timing involved. And George would pretty much turn the direction of those scenes over to Tom, because Tom knew what was supposed to happen, when it was supposed to happen, who was supposed to get which cues to make this part A work with part B. And outside of that realm, George would do all the rest of the directing. Like, okay, we're going to have to come out from under the airplane wing, we'll have this newspaper go across, and a few things like that. So it was an interesting exposure to my first film on how the direction worked. I knew you weren't supposed to jump up and ask a lot of questions and do stuff. And you didn't want to get kicked off set for doing the wrong thing, so you're, I was a kid of 30-something.
When I saw it all those years ago, your zombie always reminded me of almost like a string puppet or a marionette. He's very jerky. Rigor mortis, he's struggling to, as you said, stiff, he's struggling to walk, but he's going to get to his destination. Did your height, also, you're a tall man, did your height also feed into it? Because obviously when you climb up on the boxes, that's when the head goes into the rotors, but were you able to use your height as part of the character as well?
I don't know, because I've lived with my height most of my life.
Fair enough. And you, Len, were you given direction on how to move, how to walk, talk, move,
No.
run?
I wasn't really given any direction. It was just, I don't really even remember George saying anything except action. Tom and I talked about what was going to happen. And
Do you want to take us through the kind of choreography of Tom and you and then the machete?
yeah. So, here's what's supposed to
If
happen.
no one's seen the film, then he gets killed with a machete.
And so, when Tom and I are talking over, like I told you, stuff like supposed to put on body padding, and then he's going to run, but he's going to kick me. But so the way the whole thing transpires is, you know, they tear up the clothing and so on that I have on, and Jeannie Jeffries, who was the blonde zombie, but you know, Tom's assistant, who puts makeup on me, and Tom's getting himself ready, and you know, he said, you know, we're going to come toward you with a motorcycle, and then you're going to knock me off, and then we're going to, you know, I'm going to be upset, and I'm going to come at you, and I'm going to kick you in the chest, and knock you down, and you're going to try and get up, and then I'm going to hit you with a machete, in essence. And I thought, okay, and I was very nearsighted too, so I had to take my glasses off because I was wearing glasses. And it got very blurry, and I thought, this is going to be fun. And I thought, we have to do this in one take. I mean, I really thought about it. Like, we didn't really like discuss, oh, you're going to do exactly this, you're going to do exactly that. I just thought, you know, zombies are dead, so my body's atrophied, so I can't move very fast. Because I usually, I still move pretty quickly. I have good reflexes. And I had to like dumb down my whole body so it wouldn't react to anything except wanting to eat. And I thought about, okay, I'm going to really be this flesh-eating creature. And so all I thought about was how I wanted to bite this person or eat them. And I forgot, like I tried to like not be human. And so when George says, you know, roll, I walk very slowly, almost lethargically. And the motorcycle's coming toward me, and I think, I gotta do this right the first time. And I kind of like, not move my arm out, I just kind of swing it out because he has no energy or any muscle tone. So I just kind of threw it out there. And he, of course, he goes flying off the motorcycle. And, you know, and then we cut, and then the next shot is him running up to me, kicking me in the chest, knocking me down, wide shot. And then the next shot, him putting his foot on my chest, and then me trying to rise up, and I grab him by the leg, and I can feel my entire body tightening up as I'm really thinking about being the creature and not letting anymore. And so then he says, say goodbye, creep. And of course he takes the machete out of his boot and he swings it through the air, and then we cut. And then off camera, because Tom, if you come to my table, you'll see a picture of him. He's off camera, out of costume. And then he puts the actual machete in my head. And you can see Jeannie Jeffries in the background, and she's got a caulking tube with blood tubing connected to it coming up my back, through my hair, a lot more hair. And then she starts pumping the blood. And then he's not putting it in, he's taking the machete out. And it's printed in reverse. So it looks like this shot becomes in my head. And then the blood slowly comes down my face. And then I'm just thinking, I don't want to blink. And it's going into my eyes. I'm trying really hard not to blink. And I can feel my eyes wanting to flutter. But when I saw it later, I was like, okay, I don't look like I blinked. And, you know, and then it was just cut. And then blood is all over me. And then they take a photograph. And everyone's happy. And no take twos. Just like with Jim, you don't want to take two, because to do that over again would have taken a lot more time. And I got to see Jim do that, but we didn't know each other at all, by the way. I was like, you know, I'd done my job, and I'm standing way in the background with all the other crew. And Jim does it, and we thought it was great. And then that was it. You know, he said goodbye to people, they took him away. And then we just went on with our job. And I didn't meet Jim until the year 2000 at a show, and we were next to each other, which was kind of funny, because we became friends after that right away. And so there wasn't, you know, for some zombies, there wasn't a lot of direction, period. I mean, like, you know, George would, you'd see him talking to other people. You'd see him talking to other people. And the groups and I, we would have this sort of fun thing we do. We'd say, we'd rate the zombies, and good zombie, bad zombie, like, you know, terrible performance. Oh, that's great what they're doing. So I started thinking about, like, if I were gonna do this, I hadn't decided yet what I wanted to do. Who I wanted to be like. So I picked out some of the attractive traits that I liked in the zombie, and then when I actually did it, I was definitely gonna go in for the bite. You know, I wanted to be this horrible, terrifying thing that you didn't want to face because it was going to bite you and kill you and turn you into one of its own. So it was fun, and it lasted about an hour and a half, maybe, I don't know. And then I went back to work, still with my makeup on and blood all over me. And you know, what was really funny is, like, I went home that night, and I was still living at home, and I don't know what time I got home. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning because we shot all night. And my mom is like asleep, and she goes, "Oh, Len, is that you?" I said, "Yeah, Ma, how you doing? I'm here. I'm back from work." And I went in and I gave her a kiss on the cheek, and she opened her eyes. And she said, "Oh, okay. I'm glad you're safe." And she just went right back to sleep.
Good old man, that's a hell of a story. Thank you for that. Kathleen, you told of the conversation between Galen Ross and George Romero yesterday. So when your habit gets stuck in the door, Galen said to Romero, "So I shoot her, right?" And George said, "No, you can't kill her, done." Do you want to tell the rest of that story and how you thought you were going to die as the character?
Well, I was a girl of 23, standing there in my nun outfit, and I could see Galen over talking to George and a couple other people. And I could hear them. Zombies are not deaf. And there were blowtorches around, if anybody remembers that. And they were talking about igniting me. They were talking about burning me. Somebody had that idea and thought it was a good idea. I thought it was Galen. She denies it now. He said, "I just wanted to kill you. I didn't want to set you on fire." But they were talking about it. I remember thinking to myself, if they're going to set me on fire, I want to be higher paid. So I do remember that thought. But eventually they decided you had to let the nun go. I think that was always George's plan.
We don't actually see her again. We never see her as a dead zombie in one of the, you know, in the mall anywhere. We don't actually see her on the roof either. So I wonder whether she just wandered off into the countryside and became a nun further out.
She wandered off into the jungle of Costa Rica, and that's where I live now, and I'm very happy.
And you're very welcome here. Jim, would you, I know you've told this story many times, but a bit like Len, would you tell our friends how the special effect was created on your head, and how the effect was manufactured on the screen? Because it was quite complex, wasn't it? Could you tell us that story?
Sure. If you have any of you seen Tom Savini's books on makeup, special effects, Bizarro, Grand Illusion? There are illustrations in there of what took place, but essentially a couple weeks before the shoot, Tom had me over to his workshop and he did a head cast, which is alginate, kind of a rubberized material. Your dentist might use it to make an impression of your face. And while that's all covering your face, you're breathing through a straw for maybe 15 minutes or so, and then that is covered in plaster. So you have the softer material that is drying. Then, so for about half an hour, breathing through a straw. That's when I discovered I was claustrophobic, and I never wanted to do that again. Except for 2 days later, Tom calls it, "Jim, hey, the plaster cracked, and guess what we're going to have to do again?" And then, oh my God. So anyway, we went back to Tom's, we did the gig again. So from what Tom cast, he was able to, in his own time and with the materials, with their own drying time, separation time, create the separate headpiece on top of my head, my natural head, wherever that is now. That top piece was crafted, I guess you could call it like a latex or a rubberized type of material with the hair in it, but it was cut into chunks. Those chunks, like a little pizza, were threaded together with clear monofilament fishing line, put some space between them, so that they were connected, and then on camera, when I go up to on top of the boxes, and then on cue, Tom and another assistant are behind the boxes with these hand pumps that have the blood in them. And they're illustrations of that. I have it at my table if you want to take a look. And that's on cue. They were ready to pump the blood. The blood was in the tubes that were threaded up back by my trousers, up my shirt. And you may have noticed I wore a bit of a dicky, like a black neck thing at the time. And that helped to cover over the blood tubes as well. So it would, hey, I can see that blood tube coming out of your neck and how that's done. It was just then a matter of timing to have someone off camera with more clear monofilament line running on cue. Bam, he runs, top pieces come off as a series as a line of chunks, and that's when Tom and the other guys start furiously pumping the blood. So if you look at the illustrations, or if you look at the photographs from the shoot, you'll see two streams of blood coming down, and that's why there were two, because there were two people pumping the blood down. I hope that's it, kind of it in a nutshell.
It's perfect. Thank you very much. We've got time for audience questions, so if anybody wants to ask a question, you can have.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I have a question for Len. You mentioned that you obviously started as a grip and you wanted to have an opportunity to be in the film. How does it now feel that you're not only iconic, but your face is on posters for the film, it's on DVDs, Blu-rays? How did it feel the first time you see your face in that sort of situation?
I'll give you my answer of an 11-year-old child who used to read famous monsters of film, and I always wanted to be a monster. And so when I see it, I just kind of have that that 11-year-old smile goes off, because he used to see these magazines and I go, oh, I gotta get the new one, and I never miss an issue. And then I subscribe, and these were the kind of things I read before I went to bed. And probably I would have been a vampire had I had my first choice, but zombies would have been my second choice. And so the 11-year-old is completely gratified every time he sees the photos on something new. I mean, everything from books from Japan, like compendiums of zombie films, to posters, to DVDs. I mean, everything you can imagine. And then it just keeps popping up. And then they come to shows and people go, oh, this is new and this is new. And you go, it's just, wow. It's staggering, but and the creepy part of it is it's going to outlive me. And, so I guess Machete Zombie will never really die one way or the other. So I guess I have a slight infinitesimal part of immortality, as do my co-guests here.
I'm Paul, and was there a cast and crew screening for the film that you attended? And what was your impressions when you first saw the film?
It was thrilling. Yes, there was. I was in downtown Pittsburgh, and as many of the crew as possible who lived in Pittsburgh were there. And George was there. It was exhilarating, because none of us, the crew knew that the film was going to be there, but if you played a part in it, you didn't really know if you were going to be in the film. So when people appeared in the film, we all would all clap for whoever was on the screen. I mean, it's like we were enjoying the film as you would seeing it for the first time, but we were also clapping for each other. And so, again, my 11-year-old child saw his image and went, wow, and so everyone's clapping, and you're like, phew, thank God, that I made it, and plus everyone liked it. Because it's not a given. Someone's going to like your performance as a zombie, right? And so I was thrilled. And it was just exciting. It was exciting to be with the crew. Some of the actors were there. It was just a very exciting evening on all counts.
can we ask the same question of Kathleen and Jim? When you saw the film for the first time, and your reaction, was it like yeah, I'm in the movie?
Well, if you couldn't hear Tony's question, it was, did we have the same kind of reaction as Len? And for that premiere, again, my first opportunity to be in a film, and you don't know whether you're going to actually be in it. No matter how much time and work you put into it, no matter how many scenes you shot or how many takes you've done, you don't know if you're still going to be in it, or in what form, or what it's going to look like, or whether it's something you're going to say, I wish I'd never done that, or I'm going to be proud of that. So you have a lot of nervous anticipation. But there was just such a high energy at that premiere. There was just a total buzz. And by the way, I did get in. Yeah.
Oh, that premiere that night is a nightmare for me because I was a young mom. My daughter is in the film. She's a little redhead kid zombie. And she enjoyed being in the mall with all of us, and she understood that the blood was fake and the makeup was just kids' play. So I took her to the premiere. Big mistake. A whole different image of the film and what was going on. I remember just being stunned at the artistic change from being on set to seeing what video can do to your mind. And my daughter started crying and screaming in terror. So I had to get up and leave the premiere, stomp over everybody who was absorbed in the film, and she was screaming, crying. And people in the crowd were looking at me like I was the most horrible mother that ever lived. What are you thinking about bringing a kid to a thing like this for? So that's my memory of the premiere, which is god awful.
Best story ever.
Any other questions?
Not yet? All right.
Just a quick one, Kathleen. So, is your daughter actually in the film? Can you see it? Did she make the final call?
I am desperately looking for footage of her from that night. We grew up to be zombie lovers. I did my work life in New Jersey. Asbury Park, the home of Bruce Springsteen, has a zombie walk every year. We go. There's a platoon of nuns who I bless and give me their annual confession. Some of them are pregnant. Some of them, they're not true to my zombie nun character, but there they are in their habits. So we've grown up in zombie loving everything about it. I forget the question now.
Can you see her in the film? You can see her in the film, briefly.
From the back. From the back. She's a little kid.
Next
It's
to
a
the
red-haired
nun.
bob.
In that scene.
Yeah.
Great. I want to watch it.
Yeah, I'll look for it now.
She's in plain navy blue.
So when I first interviewed Kathleen via Messenger, and I said, well, where is she in the film? And I did exactly the same thing, pausing.
Yeah.
And you can see her, but you don't see her from, you see her from the back.
I'll find more footage. I'm sure
How
she's...
much time have we got? 5 minutes? Jim, let's talk about the airport location. The airport building has recently been demolished, so it's not there anymore. For those of us that, well, we'll never go now, but for those of us that have never been, can you tell us a little bit about the location, the atmosphere of the location, the conditions, the vibe of the place where you shot your scene?
The location is the Harold Brown Memorial Airport, otherwise known as the Monroeville Airport. It's just a couple miles from the Monroeville Mall. To reach it, you go down a little dirt road, and it's a private airport. So it was a grass runway, a little block building, the admin building, or whatever the office part was, a small building, block. And inside is where we had the makeup taking place. Jeannie was there. I think she probably did some of the finishing touches on my makeup. And from inside, we could actually watch, because outside you might accidentally be on camera, which you didn't want to do. So we could watch what was going on outside. But inside, we could move around, like if Ken Foray's there, hitting the coffee machine. I could be on the other side of the room saying, that's kind of cool. But you didn't want to say, hey, that's kind of cool. You might be, taking a hike. So it was both a shooting location. Tom Savini's nephew and niece were there. They're the two small kids who attacked Ken Curry in the film. They were in the closet. And I know when we got there were a few notes on the closet door, like, you know, I'll meet you in Philadelphia or something. And they said, you know, we need a few more notes on the door, so people write some notes and stick those up, make it look like it's a frantic exit location. And so, you know, we did a few things like that. But
Did you
yeah.
write the note yourself? Did you add one
Mhm.
yourself? Can you remember what you wrote?
No, I'm sorry. I know, I sort of know what I had for breakfast this morning, but I didn't.
45 years ago.
Thank you very much for that. No, so it was a location that was then, I guess the private pilots and so forth who owned the airport as a partnership, they decided they were getting older and land around was getting expensive. They put the airport up for sale. So it came to a point of dilapidation, but it was still a great place to do tours. Mostly from the outside. They put up cyclone fencing, which you could just walk around if you wanted to get up. The gas pumps disappeared. I remember some of the earlier tours we did at conventions in Pittsburgh. We would go to the airport and the gas pumps were there, and people wanted to get their photos taken with the gas pumps. It was just a fascinating, well, okay, sure. You know, we take the gas and put it in your pants. Why not? Sure. Do what you want to do. Make yourself happy, and that was really a great part of it. In fact, somebody did an interview with me. I live in Gettysburg, about 4 hours from Pittsburgh. And somebody did an interview, and after the interview, they said, I have something for you. It's very special. And I said, well, what's that? And they said, this. And it was like a piece of roadway, macadam. And I said, what is that? And they said, it's a piece of the tarmac from where you were at the Monroeville Airport. And I said, oh, God, you're tearing apart that piece of history? And they said, no, it's falling apart on its own. And we just kind of took that from the edge. I don't know whether the middle was the same thing as an edge, but they had a few parts. Just like today, if you go to a show in Pittsburgh, you'll see, oh, here's a piece of the elevator, here's a piece of the escalator, because the mall has changed considerably as well. The JCPenney's is gone, there's no ice skating rink anymore. For those of you who may have been there, you've seen some of the changes. There are mall tours of those locations, and what has changed since then. And it's just been a fascinating evolution, and we're certainly glad that the Monroeville Mall is still there. So, I've overspoken myself, but thank you for the question.
You know, that's absolutely fine. We have to leave it there because our guests are going to be going to do photographs, but would you show your appreciation to them?
Coming to get you, Barbara.